If you've ever looked at your blood type and seen a little minus sign next to it, you probably scrolled past it without a second thought. Big mistake. That tiny symbol is attached to one of the strangest, most debated traits in human biology. It's linked to real medical emergencies, wild internet conspiracy theories, and a genetic mystery that scientists are still piecing together. And somehow almost nobody actually knows what that minus sign means. So let's fix that. First, the basics. Your blood type isn't just A, B, or O. There's a second system layered on top, called the Rh system, named after the rhesus monkeys used in the original 1940s research. The most important part of that system is a single protein called Rhd. If your red blood cells have Rhd sitting on their surface, you're Rh positive. If they don't, you're Rh negative. That's it. That's the whole difference behind the plus or minus sign on your blood type. Sounds simple. It is not simple, because globally, Rh negative blood is rare, really rare. Worldwide, it's estimated at around 5 to 15% of people, depending on the population. In parts of Asia and Africa, it can drop below 1%. Meanwhile, in parts of Europe, it climbs dramatically higher. And there's one population that breaks the scale completely. The Basque people, living in a small mountainous region straddling the border of Spain and France, have the highest rate of Rh negative blood on the planet. Some estimates put it at 30 to 35% of the population. That's not just high, that's practically a different species blood chemistry compared to global averages. Why? Because the Basque are one of the most genetically isolated populations in Europe. Their language, Euskara, doesn't resemble any other language on Earth. It predates the arrival of Indo-European languages in the region entirely. For thousands of years, mountain geography kept Basque communities somewhat separated from surrounding populations, and smaller, more isolated gene pools behave very differently than larger, mixed ones. Here's the concept that explains it, and it's genuinely one of the coolest ideas in genetics, the founder effect. Imagine a small group of people settles in a new, somewhat isolated area. Just by random chance, that founding group might carry a slightly unusual mix of genetic traits compared to the wider population they came from. As that group grows over generations, staying relatively separated from outsiders, those original traits don't get diluted the way they would in a larger, more connected population. Instead, they get amplified. Add in genetic drift, which is basically random chance nudging certain gene versions to become more or less common over time purely by luck, not because they're better or worse. Small, isolated populations are especially vulnerable to this kind of random genetic drift. Over enough centuries, an unusual trait like Rh negative blood can end up dramatically overrepresented, purely as a side effect of isolation, not because it was ever specifically favored by evolution. So no, the Basque don't have alien blood. They have really good genetic isolation, which admittedly sounds less exciting on a t-shirt. Now here's where things get genuinely serious. Rh negative blood isn't just a curiosity. It can create real danger during pregnancy. If an Rh negative mother is carrying an Rh positive baby, and their blood mixes even slightly, which can happen during delivery or certain complications, the mother's immune system may treat the baby's Rh positive blood cells as an invader. Her body starts producing antibodies against Rhd. The first pregnancy is usually fine. The immune response takes time to build up, but in a following pregnancy, if the baby is Rh positive again, those antibodies can cross the placenta and attack the baby's red blood cells. This condition is called hemolytic disease of the newborn, and historically, it was devastating. Before modern medicine understood what was happening, R incompatibility quietly caused serious complications and losses that families had no explanation for. Then, in the late 1960s, medicine caught up. Researchers developed a treatment called anti-D immunoglobulin, more commonly known by the brand name Rogam, given to Rh-negative mothers during and after pregnancy. It prevents the mother's immune system from building up that dangerous antibody response in the first place. It sounds almost too simple for how much impact it had. A single injection, given at the right time, essentially neutralized one of the more dangerous mysteries in reproductive medicine. It's one of the most quietly successful public health interventions of the 20th century, and most people have never even heard of it. Now let's talk about the blood type everyone's heard of, O negative, the so-called universal donor. Here's the twist. That label is technically true, but wildly oversimplified. O negative red blood cells lack the A antigen, the B antigen, and the Rhd antigen, which means in an emergency, they can generally be given to patients of any blood type without triggering an immediate immune reaction. This is genuinely useful. O negative blood is critical in trauma situations where there's no time to test a patient's exact blood type. But whole blood contains more than just red cells. It contains plasma, and plasma from O-negative donors can still contain antibodies that react badly with other blood types. That's why hospitals separate blood into components. O-negative red cells alone are close to universally compatible. Whole O-negative blood is not quite the flawless save-anyone solution people assume. And because it's useful in so many emergencies, O-negative blood is also constantly in short supply. Hospitals treat O-negative donors like minor celebrities because statistically, their blood might save someone's life on the worst day of that person's year. Okay, now let's address the elephant in the room. Because if you've spent any time online, you already know Rh-negative blood has a reputation problem. Type Rh-negative blood into a search bar, and within seconds you'll find claims that Rh-negative people are descended from ancient alien bloodlines, or secretly carry Neanderthal DNA that gives them unusual traits, or belong to some hidden lineage unconnected to the rest of humanity. None of this is supported by actual genetic evidence. None of it. Rh-negative blood comes from a well-understood mutation, specifically a deletion involving the RHD gene, which simply stops the RHD protein from being produced. It's been mapped, studied, and documented extensively. It behaves exactly like other human genetic traits, following recognizable inheritance patterns, population genetics, and the same founder effects and drift we already talked about. As for Neanderthals, ancient DNA studies have found that modern humans outside Africa do carry small amounts of Neanderthal ancestry, generally around 1 to 2%. But there's no scientific evidence connecting that ancestry specifically to Rh-negative blood. The mutation behind Rh-negative status isn't Neanderthal in origin, and no legitimate genetic study links the two. So why do these theories spread so easily? Probably because the real story, rare trait, isolated population, founder effect, actually requires a bit of background to appreciate. Ancient alien bloodline requires zero background and sounds way more exciting at 1 a.m. on a conspiracy forum. But honestly, the real science doesn't need the alien angle. It's strange enough on its own. Think about what we've actually covered. A single gene deletion, quietly sitting in your DNA, can determine how doctors handle your pregnancies, which donors can save your life in an emergency, and which small mountain population in Europe you probably share ancestry patterns with, even if you've never set foot there. That's the real mystery, not aliens. Migration, every version of the Rh gene circulating in human populations today, is a leftover signature of movement, isolation, and chance, stretching back thousands of years. Which groups stayed separated? Which groups mixed? Which random mutations happened to stick around simply because a small founding population carried them into a new valley, a new coastline, a new mountain range, and stayed there long enough for the trait to become common? Your blood type isn't just a medical detail. It's a fragment of a much older story, written in a language most of us never learned to read, hiding in something as ordinary as a routine blood test. So next time you see that little minus sign, don't think alien bloodline. Think thousands of years of human migration, isolation, and pure genetic chance, all compressed into a single letter and a symbol on your medical chart. Before we wrap up, one more thing that'll make Rh-negative blood look almost common by comparison. There's a blood type so rare it's nicknamed golden blood. It's called Rh null, and it means a person's red blood cells are missing every single antigen in the entire Rh system, not just RHD, all of them. As of recent counts, fewer than 50 confirmed people on Earth have ever been documented with Rh null blood, not 50%. 50 people total worldwide. Here's the catch. Rh null blood can be given to almost anyone with a rare blood type, making it incredibly valuable for medicine. But those same people can only receive blood from other Rh null donors, meaning if they ever need a transfusion, the pool of donors on the entire planet is basically a phone list. So next time you're annoyed about your blood type, remember, somewhere out there, fewer than 50 people are living with blood rarer than a shiny Pokemon. If this messed with your head a little, that's exactly the plan. Hit subscribe, drop your blood type in the comments, and let me know, would you want to trace exactly where your Rh status actually came from?